I think the clock's about 3 or 4 minutes fast, but it is 7 right now.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we have a quick meeting tonight. We don't have a very extensive agenda. Well, not terribly extensive. There's not a lot of projects. I'll start off tonight welcoming everyone to the July meeting of the Dorado APAC. I'm John Davey. I'm the 2019 chair. Tim White's vice chair. John Resler's on a trip. Our other vice chair, works here tonight, so our secretary. First thing we're going to do is we're going to call the meeting to order. And we're going to move on to the adoption of our meeting agenda. Oops, I went too fast. We do need to amend one thing. We do have an update on the Saratoga retail law at the end of this presentation. It's just a discussion update. So, no objections other than that. The agenda is amended again. So, to begin our meetings, we offer an opportunity for public comment to any member of the public that has a comment or a question about anything that's not on the agenda tonight. If there's something that's on the agenda, we'll, of course, address those items when we get to it. So, if there's anybody that's any public comments tonight before we get into the agenda items, seeing none, move right ahead. And since you just walked right in the door, we're going to hear from Supervisor John White tonight. He has some information about activities around the county that he can share with us, and always eager to hear.
Okay. That's some breaking news.
Tell that.
That just came out today. Everything's breaking news in this world, right? Automatically you have to create it if you don't have it. But this doesn't deal so much with El Dorado Hills as it does economic development within the county. Many of you are probably aware of the fact that the Kmart store up in the Placerville area had closed many months ago. Well, they're now making an announcement. It's going to be revitalized, and the Target is going to occupy that space. So there'll now be a Ross, Dress for Less, or whatever you call it, store, and then the Target. So this is the short announcement. It says on June 12th, Gryphon Capital, a privately held real estate company headquartered in Los Angeles, made the acquisition and developed the shopping center and officially took ownership of what they call Prospectors Plaza. With their ownership comes an agreement with Target to move into the vacant space previously occupied by Kmart. Along with the addition of Target, Gryphon Capital plans to revitalize the rest of Prospectors Plaza Shopping Center, creating an updated look and feel and bringing in additional new tenants. Target intends to occupy the entire old Kmart site, which will account for 86,414 square feet. I'm not sure how that size compares with our El Dorado Hills Target, but it's probably comparable, if not maybe a little bit larger. But they're the same magnitude. And they talk about R&D space and other things that are in there. So it's a huge, I think, benefit to El Dorado County to have a quality store like that move in to an area that needs some revitalization, and this should provide it. Hopefully that will encourage more sales tax revenue within the county, and it will give us an alternate Target. If you can't get something here and willing to drive to Placerville, maybe they have it in stock. But that's the first thing. The second thing, and the final thing I guess I wanted to discuss, is we have changed our operations under code enforcement at the county. We currently have staffed up with 3 additional people. For a long time, the county was operating with 2 code enforcement personnel. Now we have 5. And there's been a redesignation of how that works. We now have an El Dorado Hills area, i.e. District 1, dedicated code enforcement officer who's responsible for our area. So I felt very strongly that we will see better response times and better follow-up on activities when somebody reports a violation of county code. If somebody's building a structure and they don't have a permit, that kind of stuff, that's a code enforcement item that goes to county. CC&R violations are different, obviously, so if you see things that are against your CC&Rs, those have to be submitted to the appropriate agency, whether it's Community Services District or others. But clearly for county code violations, there's an online form. You can fill it out. You can do it anonymously if you want, but I do feel that we're strengthening our ability to respond to violations of code enforcement today that we weren't able to do several years ago. And that ties into vegetation management, other things, keeping a clean yard, a clean space. Some of that can fall into code enforcement as well. So those are the 2 items I wanted to address, and then I just wanted to ask if anybody has any specific questions of me this evening. And yeah, Joey.
One issue seems to come up with construction where the developer is required to do certain things like dust mitigation and control. Does that come under code enforcement?
It actually comes under DOT typically, who actually monitors the site, but environmental management has the responsibility for doing the dust mitigation activities. So they work together with DOT, who's usually on the site reporting things as they happen. But if you do see dust from a construction site, the best thing to do is to call the county environmental management and file a complaint with them.
It's environmental management, it's environmental management, not code enforcement.
Correct.
And
Environmental
that's
management.
the air quality.
It's the air quality division of environmental management, basically. So there is ordinances for dust control. Obviously, it's very difficult for somebody to monitor at all times, but they are very responsive. And Cindy and I have found out that when we ask them to go out and look at a specific situation, they'll get back to us with a report. They should be doing the same thing for a public call or anything like that. So I know with construction going on, you're bound to have dust issues, noise issues, all those kinds of things. It's just inherent with construction. We try to make sure that they honor the conditions of the construction site, the provisions that are in there, the dust mitigation, etc. But we need the public's help in notifying us when we see violations so that we can reinforce that and make sure that the developers are accountable, the contractors are accountable for their work.
When you see something, say something.
Absolutely. That's the only way it's going to get any attention with ever diminishing revenues or sources for money to do things. I think we're trying to spend our money in the right places to give a better quality of life and to maintain that and to be more responsive to things where the public is really asking for help as opposed to things that were more administrative in the past. At least that's my view of it. So. Richard, yes.
John, relative to code enforcement, are there metrics presently existent as to which particular ordinances the code enforcement has been called out to deal with in the past?
Yes. In fact, one of the things on the history with that, one of the reasons why we decided we really had to strengthen code enforcement was there was something over 100 known site visits where anomalies, I'll call it, were noted over the last 10 to 12 years by code enforcement. And there was a very soft touch, please clean up the situation, let us know what it's done. And there was no follow-up. So we've now identified all those, and if I go through and look at the listing, the number one item that comes up is construction without a permit. So it's a building, an addition, something else that got built, and it's not typically El Dorado Hills. It's going to be a more rural part of the county where that occurs, although we're not exempt from those kinds of things. But we have this list that if you look at that demographic alone, most of it is the fact that the properties weren't permitted, and then there were other grading or other changes made to the property without the proper permits. So those are kind of the two that stand out, but there's a couple others that fall in the category. Those are the primary ones. So we do have some metrics and statistics based upon what's been reported in the past. As we go forward with the new administration and stuff, we're going to get a lot more of the metrics of what are the current violations we're seeing. How do we help the residents avoid having a code enforcement issue? Is it an information thing? Is it some kind of grant monies that can be used? Is it getting help or assistance from a nonprofit? What is it we can do to try to make sure that we minimize those infractions going forward? So that's kind of the scenario.
One follow-up, and this is perspective, and therefore I'm just seeking your opinion. The proposed cannabis ordinances place enforcement within code enforcement. Is there any anticipation, expectation, or reserving of asset resource time for that role?
Yes, and it won't happen this year. We recognize that with the rollout of the ordinance just a month ago, roughly, that it would take a while to build up the training necessary for code enforcement people to go out, for instance, and do defensible space inspections, to look at, that's for the vegetation management stuff, but also for the cannabis stuff, to be able to do an inspection on a property and determine that things are in compliance or not in compliance. So there's a certain amount of training that would have to go on to make sure that they're fully qualified to go out and do an assessment. But the Sheriff's Department is still fully engaged in that, as is our agricultural department. There's a number of different elements of the county. Planning is involved. It's really a team aspect relative to the enforcement associated with cannabis. So it's the permitting part, and if you're in violation of a permit, so code enforcement will play a significant role in that, but they're not the only player. The other thing we've decided to do is use satellite surveillance to really define what's going on out there. So we have signed up with a contract basically to acquire satellite images of various elements of El Dorado County. We can go through and screen the history of things 2 years ago and what are they today and what's changing, you know, that kind of stuff. And then particularly if there's a report by somebody that something is going on that may not be permitted, we don't show a permit for it, but there's a grow somewhere, to be able to identify that on a satellite and verify first that, yeah, it appears that that is a situation. Now let's make sure that if code enforcement is going to go out, the sheriff probably needs to be with them. That it's a team activity, because you wouldn't want any one person going out into that kind of an element without law enforcement accompanying them. So,
Thank you.
yep. Okay. Very good. With that, we'll turn it back over to you guys.
Thank you. We do not have a guest speaker this evening, and last month we were talking, John Ranzier was talking to some people from the Southeast Connector JPA, and they've expressed an interest in coming out talking about where they're at with the project, and maybe we'll get some updated timelines. We don't know if that'll be in August or September, so if we don't have enough to fill an agenda in August, then it probably would be in September, but we'll have an update on where that's at and what the expectations are in terms of when some of those improvements will be in place and some of the challenges that the residents are going to have with the changes from the JPA connector. So moving ahead, our first item tonight is the proposed Costco in Elroy Hills at the EDH 52 project site. We talked about this in March and April. And the original proposal was to have the facility on the sort of the northeast side of the Silver Valley Parkway, right at the interchange. We had a stakeholder meeting on June 24th, where Costco came back and they had said that we were waiting to hear back from them. They had indicated that perhaps in April they'd have a decision. Their president was going to come and look at the site and give his opinion and see if they're going to move forward. And we did not hear back from them. The president did come and look at the site, and they made a determination that they would rather have the warehouse and the fuel station on the same parcel, on the same side of Silver Valley Parkway. Originally, the fuel station was on the east side, or the west side, and the warehouse was on the east side. So they've redrawn some maps, and we'll jump into it here. This is the original proposal they talked about in March and April, where the warehouse would be on this side. This would be 800 and some odd parking spaces at grade level right here. The fuel station would be across the road. I had some questions about the circulation from one side to the other. They said it would improve the circulation, in the warehouse site, obviously, without the fuel station there. But this is what they had proposed back then. EDH 52 is still talking about developing the balance of this site because they own the rest of this up through this area. When they came back at the stakeholder meeting in June, because that's a close-up of what was proposed previously. Fuel station on the west side, warehouse on the east side. This is what's changed. They proposed moving the warehouse from the east side to the west side with the fuel station right here. And the primary entrances would be on Carson's Crossing, which is now a 2-lane road. This is still a Class A intersection for the highway. But the interesting component on this is that, jump right here, that the parking actually, there's not enough surface parking here. The lot's a little bit of a challenge because there's a grade. They want to put 219 parking stalls below grade, basically underground. The balance of 561 parking stalls would be above grade. To accommodate their members and the shoppers, they would have employees at the top and the bottom on each side of the underground parking, and assisting them with basically an escalator for carts. So the cart would roll into the escalator, gets locked in, and it rolls down, and the employee at the bottom take it off, pass it off to the consumer, and then they're off to load their car. This is a new concept for Costco in the United States. They said they haven't done this here, but they have done it in Asia, and they've done it in Mexico. And I went looking for some images of that to see what that looks like, but since it's underground, it's hard to get those pictures. I have a friend that lives in Brooklyn, and all their Costco's have parking garages. So it's a little different dynamic than what would be here. But they do have the cart escalators, and she says that's just what they're used to. So I know the Walmart in, I think it's close now, there's a Walmart on one avenue with the old country club shopping mall, and they had put a cart escalator because they had repurposed an old building, a 2-story building. So storefront would face to the east, or no, sorry, to the west. The back of the store would be to the east, and they envision a retaining wall, 10 feet high. This actually be a bit below grade for the building, so you'd see less of it from Silver Valley. 3 proposed entrances on Clarksville Crossing, 2 entrances on Silver Valley. They have not determined where they would envision a signal for in and out. I know the original proposal for EDH 52, there was a challenge with the Department of Transportation about a signal backing traffic up onto the interchange. If there were too many signals, not enough queuing and not enough space to stack cars as coming off and on. So, was that be part of a traffic impact study analysis? It's a little bit different. The parcel on the east side was 24 acres. This parcel is 17 acres. The parcel in Folsom is 14. So they know that fitting in. The challenge with this site though is the topography, just the grade. And I think we had talked a little bit earlier. My initial question was, when they built the interchange, that grading work, there's a lot of blasting. Digging here is not easy. And I think as some gardeners might know. But I believe that even when the interchange was done, the challenge there was significantly more than anticipated, and they knew it was going to be hard. So, but this is a significant cost to build a building in a parking lot like this. So the perception is that their interest in doing this is very high. That's what I took away from me. We'll come through this real quick. This is what was EDH 52. When we look at 2017, it is zone, it's planned development overlay. Commercial regional, and they had been looking at moving to a commercial community where the commercial regional is big box, which is zone 4 now. And they didn't pursue this, they just had presented it in 2017, and then Costco is what they sent a letter and kept Costco. So they would still probably have the commercial regional designation for zoning over here. There's still no information on what EDH 52 wants to do with the other side. But there still will be the same challenges, the schools in close proximity, and the houses on the hill are still right there. Oops, and I went too far. So, with that, I imagine there's a question again. And we'll start off, as we start off this conversation, every time we talk about it, there's no application, so we don't know what the real details are. These are just what they've verbally given us. Give it to us. Supervisor Hyde, I'll share the county fact sheet on his website and his social media. We'll go ahead and post that tomorrow. I wanted to make sure we presented it here tonight. There have been a couple articles, Mount Democrat Village Life. There's been an article in the Business Journal. That's subscriber content, so if you don't have a subscription, it's hard to see. But the belief is they're very motivated to do something here, and to present a project with this additional cost, it kind of indicates that they are very serious. So with that, there might be 1 or 2 questions, and if we have the answer, we'll share it. If not, we'll ask it if they present a project. Oh, this way. I'm right to left. Sorry.
Okay. Steve, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, Steve.
I use the microphone because I'm hard to hear.
What?
I said I'm hard to hear. In any case, one of the things that comes up in these kind of projects is that we talk about the design of them when it's way too late to get the design made into something we want to see happen. And so in this design, we're very close to Serrano. Serrano has some design amenities that ought to be considered to be part of this. And I will
consistent, yeah.
Yeah, I would suggest this, that for instance, the gas station maybe should be a covered bridge, like the covered bridge going into Serrano. Does that make sense?
Well, it will be covered. They do have a cover, but how they design it.
And it could look like your local standard station, and that's what
Yeah.
I don't want to see happen.
And
But to follow that through, if I may, that on the building itself, the big building, that the big box store, they build a big square building or almost square, and they don't have to build it that way. It can be a big box building that's square, but they can design it like a castle, like a fort, like a lot of things that had turrets on it and so forth, to give a little different ambiance to it, to bring it into the Serrano look. And to be very frank, if you don't have a better idea for the gas station and with the covered bridge, it may be worth a giggle, But let me tell you something, it's gonna be something that comes up and it is a real part of this whole program. And if they get ahead of this and put it in there in the first place, it's gonna be a lot easier to get this down the road.
And that's a good point. When we had the very first set of stakeholder meetings, I had heard the stakeholder meeting I wasn't at, the one I was at, that the representative from Costco, and he deals with the real estate holdings out here, he said that their proposal is when they come into an area, they ask the community, what design elements do you want? And if we can put them in, we'll do them. They basically have a standard metal building they build, and then they put whatever sort of, stacked stone or wood or metal elements, whatever the community feels is consistent. That would obviously go through the planning process, but that's an important part of, we would have them here. They've already offered to be here if they proceed, and we need to share those ideas and those concerns and those
And
concepts.
John, when Mercedes-Benz came in, they built the drying shed barn look. I'm not trying to belittle that. I think it's a great look over there, and it may be something that we want to bring here. The one thing I don't want to see bring here, and I'm not talking about you, but I don't want to see them bring here, is just this big box gray store with a sign that says Costco on the side in bright red.
Yeah.
Fair enough?
That's pretty consistent. They've stated that they want that input from the community, and I would hope that we would provide it. I would turn to you to jump in front of that. Well, it's a good concern because design review is kind of fractured here in Serrano. The homeowner association does that. Other homeowner associations, they do their design review, and then there's a lot of design review for older parts of Dorado Hills that aren't gated, and that falls to the CCNRs or here in this room they meet about, or the CST they meet about that, and it's contentious sometimes. So a good design is the best place to start.
So let me add to that, they do have a designated Northern California architect who happens to be in the Bay Area who works very closely with Costco to listen to the public's desires in terms of compatibility of external design and all those kinds of things. I had a personal conversation with him, and he seems like he has a pretty good sense of what the community needs are, and he's very open-minded, and he likes to be creative. So I don't think we're going to get a standard run-of-the-mill box store. We're going to get something that we think is compatible with all the elements of El Dorado Hills, not just Serrano, but the other elements along Highway 50 that make it a very desirable place to be.
And another part of that too is, as an example, is Fry's Electronics. Typically, when they build a store in a community, they look at what's around there with the history, and they try to match elements. Now, they might not go as far as Costco will, but the Fry's Electronics in Roseville, it's railroad themed based on the railroad yards in Roseville. They have trains inside the building. They have train station elements around the building. So if we can have something like that that's consistent with the Mediterranean look, or the look of Costco, or the look of Town Center, the olive trees, everyone seems to. I like them there, but not in my yard. But they're messy. But those are the things we need to ask.
Hi, Bill Knox here, and my wife and I are avid Costco shoppers, as I'm sure most of the people in this room are, and have been for a long time. I see this and I hear this, and I'm actually quite pleased to see and to hear that Costco has revised their plans to go from one side of Silva Valley to the other. And there's a reason why. The reason is because there's a school that's very nearby, very close. There's housing in that first proposed area that would drastically be affected. Yeah, exactly. So to see this develop, to see this project change, to me is very encouraging. And John, I heard you talk about one of Costco's reasons, if I heard this correctly, to make the shift was because of the difficulty in developing that other side of the freeway, the Silva Valley, because of the rocks and dirt and so forth.
Personally, I think that's a challenge on both sides, but I think for me, for the underground work and the grade of the smaller lot, that is a bigger challenge. But yeah, you're correct.
But what I was wondering, what I was leading up to, is that did Costco also hear from the residents who live in those subdivisions, and also the people involved with the schools, going to and from the schools, and helping them make that decision?
I'm sure it helped, but I know the Toronto, it's SOA, right? The HOA.
Right.
She was at the
president of the Toronto HOA actually submitted 2 separate letters.
Yeah.
And there was a letter submitted by representatives from the school,
Yeah.
Oak Meadow School. There were like 100 signatures on
Yeah.
it, being, expressing their concerns with the proximity to the school,
Okay.
with vapors from the gas fueling station, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Is that right?
Yeah, there were only 2 letters that were submitted to the president of Costco from the entire
Really?
Elroy Hills.
And I think part of that too is that we as a community have heard that they'll let us know if they're gonna proceed, but there's no information, like when you get an application in the county, you see the contacts about who you can, so we don't have that contact information out there yet, but apparently you can mail or email the president of Costco and they'll read your messages. So I would advise you, if you have concerns, questions, comments, let's start there. But if they do proceed, obviously we'll have a 18-month opportunity to have those dialogues. But yeah, the school district, and I have questions about the proximity to the fuel station too. I know that at the Sienna Ridge Center, we'll talk about later tonight, that the Rescue Union School District bought parcel right in close proximity to the Safeway there, and they're kind of fuel station. And I think it's actually closer to that school site, if they ever built it, than this would be to the school site here. But what are the state standards? And are we meeting them? And there's the air quality standards, not just the physical. So, but yeah, we need to entertain all those questions.
And Bill, the concern is, the elephant in the room, if you would say so, is with Costco moving to the smaller side, west side of Silver Valley, what's EDH 52 going to propose for the larger site that's still going to be underneath those homes and closer to the school? Because the original EDH 52 plans back in 2017, they were talking about 3 gas stations, one where the Costco site is, and 2 on this other side that will actually be closer to the school than the Costco proposed one. So if they come in with 2 gas stations, hotel, so until we know what they're going to propose to do on that site, it's really hard to say whether it's an overall better plan as a whole. Costco has indicated at the shareholder meeting that EDH and Costco, EDH 52 Costco, we're coming together. This is going to be one package. It's not Costco going in on an application and for all the permits and everything else. EDH is going to go as a package deal. And we have no idea at this point in time what EDH 52 is proposed for the larger 40-acre site. So that's really going to be the elephant in the room to see what that is.
Thank you, gentlemen.
there's one other thing to remember when you get into CEQA and they do the EIR, they always have to identify alternate projects. It wouldn't surprise me at all that the alternate project would be the original proposal, because now they can contrast pluses and minuses with each. Let people weigh them out and determine
the
where
public
they think
feedback.
preferences, right?
Yeah. So it's the economic, it's the physical and the practical, but also the community response. So if that is there's a no project alternative, there's a lesser environmental, so all these things get measured, and I guess we'll see if we get a proposal. Jump up.
Hi, my name is Luke Hansen. 2 children at Oak Meadow. It definitely, from the perspective of an Oak Meadow parent, looks better to have the Costco over there, right? It's a step in the less bad direction. So, but that question of exactly that, what will go to the other side, is the big nagging one. This would still be traffic issues, I imagine. Getting in and out of Oak Meadow they already way undersized their traffic plans for Oak Meadow, never mind then adding a Costco into the equation. But I'm generally unfamiliar with the process by which these things are planned and approved in the area. I've only been a resident of California for about a year now. And what I'd like to get some more understanding from this group of is, are there any opportunities for the community to have a voice into not just the facade and general decorations and maybe express opinions about traffic flows, though I imagine that really goes to some professional traffic engineers. But what opportunities are there for the community to influence the way that these lots are zoned in general? And either make it so that they cannot put a hotel and gas stations, especially on the east side of Silver Valley. Is there any process by which we can influence that? Or is that really the landowner can drive that process at this point, and we can express an opinion, but we don't have any influence?
This group and residents can express an opinion, and we are all open to offer public comment during the draft environmental impact report, and then at each part of the process, there's typically a scoping meeting where they present the plans at a first glance. The draft environmental impact report, we all get a chance to weigh in on that. And when the final comes back, they respond to everything. All those public comments come in. There's public comments to the planning commission when it's being reviewed. I imagine there'll be more than one planning commission meeting for this process, and at the board of supervisors. Right now, the way it's zoned, it had residential zoning at the beginning of the 2000s, but before that, and it was identified. The general plan had identified that it's as a commercial area. So there was an update to the zoning there, and they changed it to the commercial regional. So the difficulty with seeking a rezone or a different use, it really starts with if they own the property. Well, I can't go in and tell them I want to rezone their property. We can have those conversations whether they'll be responsive or not, to the thing. But the process for us to provide that input and provide some influence starts with the scoping meetings like this, and they volunteered already to come to meetings and talk to us about it. So that's where it starts. In terms of the politics of it, that's tough, and I don't know if anybody else wants to.
Well, the draft EIR, the CEQA document, is really where the public is encouraged to respond to every one of the 17 elements that's in there. So there is things like traffic, there's noise, there's biological compatibility, there's various things that anyone who has an interest in that project ought to go through. And APAC does a really good job historically of trying to divide, the draft EIR, which might be 400 pages, up amongst people to review, and make comments and submit a consolidated list of those through APAC. But any individual resident is welcome to do that as well, to submit a letter to the county planning, basically with your suggestions, your questions, your suggestions relative to what those environmental impacts would be. So it covers the whole spectrum. That having the zoning in place, it was established many years ago, and the way the general plan is prepared, it would be a major event to try to change that today for a different type of use for that particular property.
So within the zoning designation, there are probably certain styles of like heights of buildings, types of structures, square footage, maximum that can be built, all of those things. Those are the real binding things. Are there other binding things, such as the Serrano master plan that has style factors which would actually bind them because under that
This property falls outside of the El Dorado specific plan and the Serrano master plan. They don't own the property, and that's what's difficult. So Steve's got some input a little bit from there.
If I may make a comment about this, what you're looking for is something to happen over there that should conform with the general plan of the county. There is a document called the general plan. Most of us have seen it or whatever. But part of it is a height limitation, those kinds of things. And for instance, the apartments in town center violated, when it was approved, it violated a lot of those ordinances. And so they got it approved yet, and it still violates some of those ordinances, but all that got set aside. So there's
the general plan had to be amended to allow that to happen. There's an official amendment to the general plan, so it wasn't just waived off. It's part of the general plan today. It was done by the supervisor. So yes.
The point is that the builder was able to get that done, and that happens in this business. It just does. One of the things, if I may add one last comment, you mentioned that you moved here about a year ago, and you most likely used a real estate agent when you did that. I would assume, maybe not, maybe you bought for sale by owner and just were driving through the neighborhood. The point is that your agents are supposed to give you an idea of what's going on out here. And when they don't, then you got something to be a little bit angry with. But this project, like the freeway and all the overpasses, I've been here 20 years. This has been going on for all that 20 years. So for us, it's no surprise. For us, I had grandchildren that went through the school system and all that, and I wouldn't want them up against a gas station. But on the other hand,
they're gonna be up against more than one gas station before this is over. And I don't represent anybody, I'm just an old retired guy, not running for office or anything.
And to Steve's point about being here 20 years, you know, I'll be here 24 years next week, and there are things my neighbors that moved at the same time they don't know, and they've been here 24 years. It's because, you know, you're hyper focused on what you're buying right here. Or some people will look outside and go, well, where's the school, or is there a new school? Are there shops coming? Are there dentist offices, doctor's offices? Some people look at it. Some people are looking strictly at the house in the neighborhood. Like it. As an example, Silver Springs Parkway out by Mouse Lake, where I'm at, that was disclosed to us. You know, that was started in 1981, and you know, we're hoping it will be built. That road will be in it in 2 years. So, but to be fair, I mean, those things were disclosed, and as Steve said, a lot of times they aren't, especially on a resale. On new development, typically they're a lot more thorough.
And you only get 400 pages of papers from
That's fine. That's fine. So, but in terms of building standards and what's allowed in terms of ordinance, and you know, yeah, they have to meet them if they want to go higher, as Steve suggested, or if they want to go more square footage than is allowed, more floor space than is allowed for a retail use or for a manufacturing use, or they can ask for those exemptions or exception. But that's where it falls on the community to say, hey, well, why are they asking for it? Maybe we can trade for better pieces of the project or better design elements or moving something a little farther away, a little closer. Those are all things that are open to discussion, but you know, we're not the decision makers. We are the decision makers.
So
In my opinion, you know, the best start is to come to the scoping meeting, and they don't have a scoping meeting for every project, but for something like this, I guarantee the planning department's going to require a scoping meeting to be done. It'll be held in a public forum. It could be here, it could be at Oak Meadow School, the auditorium, whatever. But the scoping meeting is the first time we see real plans, and it's, you know, right after they submitted it to the county to start the approval process. And they usually bring the owner, the developer, representatives from Costco will be there. Costco will probably bring its local architect, maybe its landscape person, all the people that you can talk to one-on-one and say, hey, you know, Steve can go and say, look, you know, we don't want a plain white big box. We want something that reflects Toronto values or El Dorado Hills values. This is where you have a one-on-one conversation with them. If you're concerned about some specific thing about access or traffic, you can at least make your concerns known up front before all the environmental impact report studies are all done. So the scoping meeting is a good time to get those concerns known. The Department of Planning is there. Usually for a project this size, they'll probably have 2 or 3 people there. They put out comment cards. They want to hear your comments. If you don't want to talk to someone or you can't get hold of them, you can write comments and they will be reflected, they'll be forwarded so that all the requests and comments are made known so that all starts the planning process going forward. After the scoping meeting, it's pretty much going to go into a dead zone for several months while the environmental firm that's been hired by the county to do this environmental impact report, all the traffic studies that need to get done are being done. That could take 4 months. A project like this would probably take closer to 9 months or more. So that's sort of the dead zone. But once that environmental impact report, the draft environmental impact report, the DED or DEIR comes out, that's when the community has to get moving very quickly, because we get typically 45 days to review that. And, you know, APAC has seen ones that have run 1,200 pages long, and we only got 7 or 8 people to review it. Very difficult to do. And none of us here are, you know, they hire traffic specialists, firms that do nothing to do this. I'm not a traffic specialist. I can read it. John can read it. Others have read it. We make comments, but we don't have the educational background or the scientific or the math background. We're just trying to do the best we can.
Yeah.
So that's what we really need you to start talking at the scoping meeting, but also get involved and help us review these environmental impact reports, because I see many of you here time after time, and I'm glad you're coming. I'm glad you come on a July 10th meeting when I'm sure many of us would rather be doing something outside in the backyard or whatever. But, you know, we really need to, when it comes to looking at a 400-page document, to take a 35 or 40-page section of it on noise or pollution or traffic and read through and get your comments, because those comments are official, and the the environmental impact firm and the county has to respond to each of those comments individually when they issue the final environmental
And then
impact report.
what government agency, the council eventually approves these things?
Well, the county planning department processes it. It goes to the planning commission. Typically, this project will go to the planning commission. That's really when the official public review process and hearing process starts. So you can appear at the planning commission meeting as a resident, state what your concerns are, quote sections of the draft EIR you responded to, ask questions where you don't feel the response was sufficient. All of that happens in that public hearing process. The other thing to note is that the planning commission can recommend conditions, as can the board of supervisors, which will receive the project after the planning commission has done their work. Whether it's approved or not approved, if it isn't approved, typically it comes on appeal to the board. So one way or another, it typically gets to the board after the planning commission. But they can establish within those conditions things like additional setbacks. They can establish hours of operation, things that make it more compatible with the local neighborhood beyond what the planning documents would say are the requirements for maximum height of buildings, et cetera, et cetera. Those are more the esoteric and the community-oriented things of what you put in the conditions on the project. And I've seen some projects that have 40, 50 conditions on them. So it's not like it's one or two. Typically, there's a pretty thorough review based upon the public's comments of what their concerns are. What can we do to conditions to mitigate or minimize the potential for the impact that somebody's talking about?
And then the EDH 52, they're a developer? They're a special purpose entity?
Their project, and they own the property, or they own the options on the property. But they're developing, so typically what a developer does is, for retail or commercial, they'll get the entitlements to a project, they may turn it over and sell it to a builder, they may build it and then sell it to an operator, or parts to an operator, or they may just operate it themselves.
But is that's a company here in El Dorado Hills, or that is a special purpose entity?
Well, typically they do form like LLCs or limited liability, or limited partner groups as a subgroup to manage to shepherd the project.
This is an Angelo Sakopoulos, AKT is the acronym used, project. But they call it Project 52 because that is a designation. When you got multiple projects, that's what the title of this one happened to be. So that's what it's referred to for the project, but the developer involved is Angelo Sakopoulos.
AKT.
AKT.
Yeah.
And Mel's got something real quick.
Hey John, my name is Mel Pavlinas. I'm the planner for the project. So nothing else to add. Just if I have my cards here, if you have more questions, we can have some if you want. So definitely get a hold of me if you have more questions. There's no formal application for the Costco part. There is the EDH 52. So as soon as we have an application for the Costco part of it, that's when things get rolling, right? But if you have more questions, here's my card. So.
I was going to ask a question real quick too when we talk about the approvals process. On a project of this size, does a development agreement ever come into play, something like this, or is that?
The DA is a contract, so it's optional. Either we can initiate it or they can initiate it, but somebody has to initiate it. Ultimately, that's when the wheeling and dealing happens. Becomes part of the project, but right now the only entitlement that could be submitted is a PD, right? But DA is a contract by nature, so it could be part of the process if it's initiated.
I was just curious because we've seen them obviously on big residential projects, but I don't think we've seen them on town center. Did it have a?
It had a town center was part of the Dorado plan, which expired. Had a DA back in 88, which expired in 09. So, but we did have a DA before. So, but this one, depending on how things gets rolling along, it could be a DA that's initiated, but until then, you won't know.
So remember, this is putting in a segment of Country Club Drive. Adjacent to Silva Valley, and there's a realignment of Country Club Drive with Bass Lake, and there's a missing connection. So all of those things, the county's trying to look at. How do you get the roadways connected? Central El Dorado Hills has a connection proposal. That's part of a development agreement. This could be hypothetically part of a development agreement to get that road segment connected at some point in the future. So you do have that transportation parallel, to Highway 50 is an active goal.
And the good thing is, Al mentioned the development agreement. The development agreement used to be basically between the developer and it was signed off by the head of county planning. In the last year or so, that process has been revised to the county level, so it's not over the head of county planning, it's the head of county transportation, and one other individual, right, who's on, is looking at the development.
Well, it's planning, building, it was our auditor controller, he's now decided he's not gonna actively participate.
But the most important thing is you've got
For specific reasons.
you've got the transportation guy involved.
Right,
because-
transportation and planning are definitely involved,
Yeah.
as is the
Well,
CAO's office.
CAO, yeah. So there's more eyes on it and more opinions at the county level. Before it was sort of a one-on-one with the director of planning and the applicant. And now it's the applicant and a group from the county. So, not to say that, they're not looking out for all the things, there are things that DOT will look at that maybe the director of planning in the past hadn't considered, and those things get missed. And then we all wonder, why is this one like this? Or why is this, why are the, things like that. So now you have multiple agencies looking at that from the county. So it's a better process, but the thing about development agreements is that, I wish they were a little more transparent, but it's hard to do that when you're talking about market items. Those are close towards meeting. I find it, I found one development agreement in the
It always deals with the economics, and those
Yeah.
are always sensitive.
Yeah, sensitive,
Confidential
how someone's gonna
information
finance a
and
project,
disclosed ahead of time.
who their future partners or candidates would be. So that's why those are sort of not as open as the rest of the process. So if that happens, maybe we have a better result, but.
I took two takeaways from the meeting. One, they really want to be here because, to build an underground parking garage, he said it's going to cost $150,000 per spot. So that's a lot of money for an underground parking garage for 200 plus things. So they do want to be out in this community. The second thing is, besides identifying that they're going to draw from El Dorado Hills and up from Placerville down, people going up to Tahoe and stuff, they also suspect that they're going to get a lot of people coming from the 10,000 new homes that have started being constructed down in Folsom Meadow. Now that's over the next 20 years or so. But a lot of them are going to want to take the connector. They plan that they're going to come up the Trove, and then they're going to come.
We'll come up White Rock and
White
come
Rock
into it.
the Trove, and go right, and White Rock right into it. Trouble is, White Rock goes down to 2 lanes, one in each direction there. The county planned the investment in building the roads out looked like they were going to do something like that about 20 years ago. And Supervisor Heidel mentioned that he knows that in the Department of Transportation, if the cost gets approved, we can't have that 1 lane in each direction. It's going to have to be 2 lanes or more. Clarksville Crossing is going to have to be at least 4 lanes wide and probably have 2 left turns, turns going in or out, because otherwise we're going to have one cluster blank of a traffic problem. So you can't just build a store and let the roads that are all around it go untouched.
How do I spell that? My initial concern when they showed us this project, and I was kind of stunned that they're talking about putting it underground for 200 parking spaces. That's a significant amount of capital to do that. So their intent is pretty sincere. I think they're eager to do it. But and it's still not alive in the old plan. It's Clarksville Crossing. Sorry. I know when that was originally part of the design for the new interchange, that there was a lot of talk about the walking and the bike paths on this. And I think that there are a lot of bikers that are unsatisfied with the condition of the bike paths right now, or the amenities. So what's going to happen now is that this, as Tim says, this is going to have to be a 4-lane road. I don't know. I mean, we're not planning experts or traffic engineers. But not only that, before when this was on this side, if people are coming out from Placerville or if they're coming across the highway and getting off and going this way, they flow right into this. Now if they want to go on to this side, they're either going to have to come around the bottom and come around the back, or they're going to have to come in, there's going to have to be a light up here someplace, whether it's where the future country club comes through here, and have one light here. But now you've got cars queuing to make a left and go in. I know there's a lot of
that all without any new lights by coming off the
well,
highway.
they're gonna have to be light. They're gonna have to be daylight, but whether it's if it's there's a light right here on this off ramp, put another light right here. Well, now if it's a high volume operation, and we know that it is, well, what's that gonna do during the day? Obviously, they're not open early in the morning, so the impact on the school in the morning is not gonna be significant. Yeah, we would probably be.
Except for the fueling station.
Well, the fueling station's open at 6 or 7. So.
Right.
So that was my initial concern. It's like, well, this is a 2-lane road. I understood the draw of this. It's a major interchange. It's the only, not say interchange we have in the county. Okay, so now we're moving it off of this segment onto this, so the traffic impact analysis is gonna have to, the details are gonna have to be there to understand what, improvements are gonna be made, how we're gonna manage this, and what they're willing to contribute to make it something where it's not gonna be an impact. So that was my first concern when I looked at that, other than, what are the sightlines gonna be from the houses on the hill? If it's, the fuel station still close to the school, those are all questions that we all are still asking.
Thank you.
My only comment is, I hope we do whatever is necessary to encourage them to come here. I'm tired of my sales tax dollars going to Folsom. I've been here for a long time. And my sales tax dollars have hardly ever stayed in Dorado County. They need to stay here. And this is a great opportunity to start bringing those sales taxes into our county. Not only does the commercial development have a less impact on us as far as expenses go.
For services.
If that was housing, we would spend more money than it would give us in property taxes. That's a statistic that you can check. With that being a commercial property, we'll get more money than it will cost us in services.
There's two things about that too. Is one, we'll be poaching from Folsom and Sacramento for a change. Right? Not only will we be keeping it here, we'll be bringing some in, which is nice. But also, I think we talked about it a little bit at the community council meeting last Monday, is that the county releases the sales tax statistics, what we generate for sales tax, and I know sales tax aren't a big deal here because, this is a residential community, residential county. There are services and there are businesses, the business part, but they're not generating sales tax. But when you look at sales tax, out of the top 25, like 5 or 6 of them are gas stations. So we don't sell a lot of stuff here that's taxable. So the Costco, the food obviously won't be taxable, but there's other items, TVs and clothes and parkas and canoes and whatever else. But it's a good opportunity there. Whether it merits the trade-offs we'll have in getting the project approved or what they need to do, that's, again, we need to see the application, we need to see the studies. So, Steve, we'll go back here.
One last point, I was speaking with LAFCO, Jose Enriquez, and if Costco comes online after we become a city, then that money gets attributed to the city of El Dorado Hills. If it comes online before we become a city, that money gets attributed to the county. The county is really looking forward to that $1 million a year coming into its coffers, and maybe John will agree with that.
The county could definitely make use of that. The stopping of the sales tax linkage to Sacramento County is win-win. Because that's what a lot of it is, the sales tax leakage. Stopping that leakage is important. Encouraging more sales tax revenues within the county is also important, so yes.
Good to see you again.
Hi.
I understand you're a planner for the county. Good to see you here.
Yes.
David Larson, I just spent 8 years serving on the Roseville Planning Commission. Your comments about traffic are parallel. And this gentleman here, speaking of tonight, is testimonial of how proactive the community can be to influence design. My question here, we just moved here 2 months ago. Looking at March of 2019 and moving it over to here to the new proposed location, what's the motivation again for the current underground parking?
The motivation, the determination that we were told was that, hey, this is the design, this is where we're interested in. We're going to have the president of Costco come out. He always gets the final say on whether we're going to proceed, and then it gets modified. Well, he came out in April. We were told that we'd hear in April. We didn't hear in April. We didn't hear in May. The president determined, his opinion was it'd be nice to have the fuel station on the same side as the warehouse. So they can't physically, because of that grade, they can't do it. I'm assuming they can't do it underground on that side, but
I'm better understanding now. So the gas stations in the office.
yeah, and the original design, which was unusual to me, the original design of the fueling stations across the street, they said it improved the circulation internally for the warehouse and parking. But to me, that means there's trips back and forth, right? Here, there's going to be trips back and forth with whatever gets built here, but for their customers, their members, and I am one, that's a lot of back and forth. The president expressed a desire to have it on the same side, so then they got their pencils out trying to figure out how they could fit it in.
Gotcha. Now this again is in the conceptual phasing. So going back to the traffic, this is for the planner gentleman here. Is there already considerations for a light? Does that say Clark's?
It's Clarksville Crossing. This is the old Silver Valley.
Is a premature evaluation?
It's premature.
So we're looking at light considerations there, widening the street.
We have traffic
In that original plan, the white line goes under Silver Valley. Is that a tunnel?
No, I believe it's a driveway. Right here, right? Or right here? That one?
That's not a tunnel?
No, I believe it was just a driveway for go back and forth between well, not back and forth, ingress and egress on both sides.
I mean, Costco indicated that typically their new stores always have the gas, just like we have out at Costco Falls. The gas station is part of the larger parking lot for the whole thing. They just felt that it would be too disruptive because many people go to Costco, load up their car, and then they go get gas. To have them cross the street and go through traffic lights, and you get a different line, if you would, to get gas and then leave, just was not the way they want to do business. So they wanted to get them on the same site, and they felt, I guess, economically it made more sense for them to move to the west side, the smaller parcel, than to try to get the gas station on the bigger parcel.
They indicated that they went to EDH 52. They have a letter of intent with them that they want to do this. They went to them and said, hey, what if we moved everything to the other side of the street? So this wasn't a conversation where they were planning to improve things for EDH 52. They said that they had initiated the conversation. We'd like to have it on one side. Can we do that? Sure. Hello?
Thomas Haynes, long-time resident. Grew up here, went through the school system, but I've always thought of Dorado Hills as a residential area, and it's just so scary to see how close, and there's no buffer. And like when you go through Folsom, you see here's your residential developments, and then you've got your big box stores. It feels much more spread out, and then here it looks like we carved out essentially a part of our residency, and we're just throwing big box into it, which is very alarming to me because it just feels like it's changing the dynamic of the community. And I understand there's tax dollars to play. It just feels like it's being inserted into those communities. And I don't know if there's a way to partner where we insert them and then we find a way to partner up with the community where I just need to see box store. I see 3 potential box store with the way this proposal's laid out. We're just going to box store, box store, box store. It's inserted right in this resident's pocket. It's just really alarming to me.
Yeah, what we're dealing with as residents was this was rezoned for that, purpose, and it was part of the general plan. It was approved, it was voter approved. It had fits and starts, and obviously it went to the voters. And you've been here a long time. And I think part of the issue is that when I look at small communities, I know we used to have an office in Moorville, California. We had some in Marysville. And that those communities are older communities, and they had existing things in place, with really no thought to what was going to come later. So I think that, as they work out the general plan, the determination was that, hey, the growth is going to be along the Highway 50 corridor. Obviously, it's going to be right here in El Dorado Hills because the population is following with that. I don't know how we address that. I mean, it's rezoned for what it is now. It's part of the general plan. It's part of the specific plan for El Dorado Hills. Can we get things changed? Can we talk to them about, hey, can you add these features? Can you remove these features? Can you add a buffer? Those are all questions we can ask. Now, whether they say yes or no, I guess the final determination is that, somebody will always say, well, if you buy the property, you can do what you want. If you don't want them to do that, offer to buy them, but it's not realistic. But no, that's a long-time resident. When I moved here, and, Wayne, John, there was no town center. I mean, they knew it was coming, but it wasn't here. Couldn't, you could say, oh, there's going to be this, big shopping area over here. It's hard to get through together. Okay, sure, someday. Well, 2 years later it was Sunday, and there it goes. So. Are there any other?
Two things, quickly. Is there anything tentative relative to Country Club Drive in that picture at all?
No, when we
so that road they're going.
Country Club would be around the loops around here. Charlotte's doing a 14 villages. They were just talking about the tentative maps for that. Is it Rusty Ranch Road?
Yeah, Rusty.
Okay. So, Rusty. So there'll be a gate there, but there's no road to go out of the gate on, so Country Club will be the gate that it'll connect the Country Club there. And when I was at the stakeholder meeting, some of the attorneys for AKT, they were hearing these questions about Country Club, and they looked at each other and said, hey, we gotta go and talk to these people about how we can facilitate this, because we'll need that road behind it. Their plan was all going to be a buffer back there. There's not going to be any access, but they understood that they're going to need connectivity. In fact, that's believe that's the gate right there.
Yep.
So, and then again, we asked all those questions about what about the school? Is there a possibility to have some connectivity to country club, the future country club, to the school that would drop off area? Can we work with the district? So we all collaboratively as residents, as the county, as the school district, find a way to make this better via this project. Well, now they're across the street. Are they still willing to pitch in on country club? No, most of that property is privately owned right now.
Second question, is Clarksville 4 lanes under the, where?
2 lanes right now.
The old lanes, yeah.
But I mean, right there, that bridge,
Oh,
the underpass.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
It's 2.
It's 2? So that would have to be expanded to, oh boy.
3 was expensive.
There's a creek there, so it's not like
There's
they
a
can
wetland.
expand that to 4. I mean, they would have to get into their property to do it.
And not only that, over here, I know that family's still trying to sell that property. They had a small business park proposed there many years ago. So whether they work collaboratively with them, they want to sell the property, and they use part of that to expand the road, but the traffic studies will reveal what's required, and then there'll be a determination of what they're willing to do, and what the county asks for. And so we only deal.
Question for you, on the June 19th side, the closest comparable we have to this setup, which is the store and gas station, is the Bidwell, correct?
Yeah, it's actually a smaller parcel of Bidwell, but it's pretty level. This is not level.
What's the scale?
Yeah, it's similar.
How does this measure in comparison to Folsom?
It's very similar. Folsom's 14 acres, this is 17 acres. Folsom, but like we were talking about, there is a grade on this, which is why the park wouldn't be underground, because they can't use all of it. Also,
They can use about, I think you said 13 acres, so because of the grade, about 4
Well,
acres.
and the
on
corner piece
property.
out there is a set aside, they can't do anything.
the one at the top.
Yeah, where the old monument, where you see
Right.
those concrete
The old
walls.
structure,
that's-
foundation.
Yeah, that's not part of the 14, 17 acres that they're talking about.
John, I was curious, at what time, both of these properties were supposed to be, people were trying, Eldorado 52 was trying to make it community commercial. Remember where it had the storage and.
Right. That was the proposal EDH 52 made in 2017 or something?
2017.
What was prompting that? Because that was after 2014.
Because the plan that they were envisioning was a lot of not big box use. It was, they talked about, I think this actually has some of that, storage, over here, self-storage on this side. They had a market here.
30,000 square foot market.
And then they had a hotel, 99-room hotel in here. And then
Restaurants, medical buildings.
drive-throughs.
And I think the total square footage was what, 290?
Well, I think the original was 350.
It was 350, then it got knocked down to about 275,000 square feet.
Yeah, but it didn't progress. That was sort of stopped.
And then I think somewhere along the line, Costco came in and said, hey, would you consider us partnering up with you, and if we can get permission to build a Costco, will you sell us land? And they said, oh, hell yeah, we will. So, so now it looks like it's going to be a Costco on the smaller side, if that happens, and whatever EDH comes back with, which I would assume will be something what we originally saw, whether it's a market, a 100-room hotel, self-storage, restaurants, and small doctors and business offices, stuff like that.
I'll ask Mel real quick. So they would keep the CR designation on this side if Costco proceeds, but on the other side, does this satisfy the CR designation if they can do CC on that side?
It's the same zone, so unless you do something else on their side, then that'll be different requests, right? But same application, but different requests for that portion.
It'll be part of it.
You can be part of it, yeah.
But if they need to, my question is, they have big box here.
Depends on the expected use.
It depends on the use.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear you. What was that? I'm sorry.
It depends on what EDH 52's expected use of that property is, whether they want to rezone it from the CR to the CC. So there may be a portion of it they want to rezone, they may want to leave it exactly the way it is. We don't know yet until they come forward with their plans. So.
But Costco kind of killed that, didn't they? They kind of put it.
Well, they're working together, but yeah, it was some kind of agreement, I guess, it got reached, but yeah.
I didn't know how that all got kind of moving as far as changing the zoning. I knew it was a developer, but I was hoping that they'll go back to possibly community commercial at that point.
Well, then the question there too is, as Tim was talking about earlier, so what if it goes community, commercial, not community, regional? Then what are they putting in? Is it going to be the market? Is it going to be a hotel? Is it going to be 2 gas stations? Because in all honesty, the place you put gas stations are on freeway off ramps.
It's the elevation though.
That's the thing, you're looking down at it, and it's, yeah. But that is, I mean, would you rather have, well, it's not, you can't do it now. Would you rather have a gas station a mile in, or would you rather have right next to the highway? Let's impact the residents in, let's impact on the road coming to and from for a gas station. Gas stations go next to freeways, so it is.
What's the space from the school to a gas station?
I don't know. That's why I was trying to remember. I looked at. I think the one at Bass Lake is if they do a school there, it's 700 feet. But I looked in Placerville. Or even in Cameron Park, the new one they're building on Cambridge. It's closer. It's closer to the middle school on Mary Chase than 700 feet. If I remember correctly.
Hi. My name is Wade Ponto. I just I had a question about the new plan. Does anyone in this room know, like, so they redesigned it, and you just said, hey, that makes sense to put the gas station close to the freeway. Why not?
Oh, no. The gas station's in about the same place. I just said that.
That's what I mean. It's like, do we know if there was any discussion about, like, why roughly the same place? Like, why not close to the freeway?
No, that wasn't part of the discussion.
Okay, so no one, okay. But that's,
But no.
I'm just saying, it makes sense to me. It's like, okay, well, what you just said makes sense. Why wouldn't we it's just another corner of the lot. I mean,
Well, yeah, I know, but my observation was about the fact that they talked about 3 gas stations in the original 2017 plan.
right.
So, because that is where you put gas stations, and that's where gas stations want to be, so they could, that's a market that they want to obviously
And
grab.
if I understood that properly, what we were saying earlier is that eastern portion, if they wanted to still be pretty commercial, they still needed to proceed probably with rezone for
Parts
that
of it,
parcel
yeah.
up there.
But that was my question, is that if Costco's on one side, does that satisfy the CR?
No.
So that they can do lesser, like community, commercial, as part of the other side?
It all depends on the use though.
Okay.
We have to see the whole project and
Okay.
how it all fits.
And it's a package, is what you're saying.
That's what they're saying.
That's
is
what
like-
they're saying, that they're gonna submit the whole.
I guess it's conceivable they can get far enough along, Costco's eager to go, they say, hey, we're gonna do ours, but I don't think they will.
There are a lot of duplicative costs in doing a CEQA, and even though Costco has big bucks and EDH 52 has invested a lot of money in the site and on some road work, again, if you could save a couple $100,000 by having one traffic analysis and one CEQA, it kind of makes sense because these projects are sort of going hand in hand with each other.
Well, they also have to disclose the impacts, the cumulative impacts for known projects. If they know they're gonna build something over there, it makes sense to put it all together right now. It gives the community opportunity to see it all, instead of seeing this right now and 5 or 6 years later seeing the other part. Oh, wait, why didn't we talk about that then?
In fact, most of us were very pleased to say they were going to submit a joint application.
Yeah, I was
So
just
see everything at once as opposed to something coming in later, looks like
Piecemeal.
infill. What the heck is this now? It doesn't fit well, et cetera, et cetera. So that was our preferences, I think, in the county, at least from my perspective, is I want to see the whole project, look at cumulative things, look at the traffic flow and all the other stuff that goes with it to make sure it all fits or it doesn't. And if it doesn't work, then what does it need to change to so it does work?
Exactly. I was going to say, when I first saw it in the paper, I thought to myself, until I really know what's going on up here, it's hard to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down or anything, because there's so much traffic that can get impacted by that.
Yep.
There's just, depending on what goes in there, how can you really do a true traffic analysis on that road? You don't know what's going to be on the other side.
Our DOT department's already started reaching out to the traffic agency that Costco has told us, that EDH 52 has told us they will have on contract, but they're not sharing information yet until there's actually an application, which makes sense. You don't want to spend your time with engineers discussing details before you get an application submitted and know it's a real project. So that'll come. We've already speculated on where some traffic lights might be, but that'll come too. Right?
Well, I'm sure they're hoping they're gonna hit the
Yeah,
number.
Costco did say that,
Rock
maybe.
anyway.
Costco did say that they're hoping to get an application September, maybe?
Yeah, they suggested September,
Yeah.
as long as, you know, their partner, EDH 52, is on the same time frame. Any other questions? We talked a lot about something that isn't real yet, but as a community, you know, if we start talking about this, I think part of the decision for moving that, it might not totally be it, but they heard, you know, those letters from Serrano, from the Homeowner Association, from the school, the district. You know, if they're hearing these things now as a community, the more we know, the more intelligent responses and questions we can ask. And then we'll have a whole bunch more if we come through a project.
But don't you think, John, that they're gonna be delayed if the cost of leveling that land is so extreme, and if they hear Costco opting out and going on the other side because of those costs, that the ability to have everything at once is doable?
My guess is that EDH 52 has already done geological studies to look at what the soil structure is, and they're sharing out with Costco. I don't know. But you would think, since they went down a national marketing campaign, this is EDH 52 did for that particular project, that they would have to be able to convey to any potential anchor tenant or whatever what the conditions were going to be. So
if you look at commercial marketing materials for, you know, commercial realtors, there were documents everywhere for this project. And they talk about, you know, town centers here with a Target, a Nugget, Rayleigh's is here, and they point out exactly what amenities are nearby. So when they market, they cast a wide net, and they hope to get somebody to come in and get excited. Okay. So I want to my place. All right, good deal. Well, hopefully we'll have some more information and we can have a plan in front of us and we can respond to it accordingly.
we should say that they expected to submit an application in the formal time frame, so
Yeah,
September.
September.
So we're not going to hear anything for several months, but
So it
something
is,
happens.
we had heard that, you know, we would hear something in April, and we heard it in June, so they're saying September, maybe we'll hear it in November. December, January. So, next, tonight, this is a notification, conditional use permit from the irrigation district to move the Bass Lake treatment facility operations down to the main plant on Latrobe Road. So it's, for the wastewater collection facility, they want to add from Bass Lake to the wastewater treatment plant down on Latrobe. The project includes interior remodel of existing office and operations building, construction of new operations laboratory building, 2 equipment storage buildings, and resurfacing for on-site vehicle circulation, parking and equipment storage areas. So they're going to pay part of this existing facility to accommodate the new use. Approximately 20 employees will relocate from Bass Lake plant down to this one, and the property is 66 acres. It's on the east side of Latrobe, basically 400 feet southeast of the intersection with Suncast Lane. And here we are. Suncast is over here. This is the existing boundary. The project we're talking about is in red down here at the bottom. The Bass Lake functions will move down here. So it's pretty simple. It is a conditional use permit. So under the county's ordinances, the wastewater treatment plant's categorized as an intensive public utility service facility, and expansion of existing facilities allowable within the open space zone district applied to the project site. But they have to have a conditional use permit. They have to have approval for that to do it. It's required for uses and activities that may be appropriate in the applicable zone, but requires some site-specific review to determine that there aren't any potential effects on the environmental and on the site and surrounding areas. So specifically, they're talking about remodeling an existing 3,500 square foot building, adding 1,500 square feet of office space and utility space, and a laboratory drop-off for water samples. Construction of a new 4,000 square foot metal storage building, 800 square foot metal material storage sheds, and 800 square foot block bulk area for bulk material storage. Like when you go to a landscape place and you go and you see the park stored in cinder block and divide it up, you have redwood, straw, and sand, and different things. So again, they want to resurface for their vehicles traffic internally. And they want to improve the existing entrances at the southwest corner, the southeast corner of the property. And they also want to develop areas to store materials and equipment on site. So a closer look at the project Basically, this is it down here at the bottom. And then won't touch the building at the top. There's a closer look right here. Parking facilities and storage buildings and expanding. It's just metal buildings. It's compatible with what's in the Mass Lake facility right now. And this is the other end of it right here. Where the open, I'm sorry, go back. The open storage, the bulk storage is here at the bottom along here on both sides. So conditional use permit. I honestly didn't, when I was looking at it, when I first flushed, didn't see anything. I said, well, what am I going to ask? Because they're already doing all these things there. I don't know environmentally if there's that much more that's going to impact activities there. So, real quick look. These are sort of the metal buildings we're talking about. And this is the expanded, they're going to have 1,500 feet in this building for laboratory and office space. Their vehicle trip generations, when I was looking at that, the trip generation numbers are always funny to me because they're very precise. And I don't know how real they are. They're talking about, there's 21 in and out of the AM peak hour, there's 21 in and out in the PM peak hour. And I'm not a traffic engineer, but how you generate them, I don't know how you get those precise numbers. 84 daily trips, 42 in the morning, 42 in the afternoon. There are some concerns about the level of service that are there right now. This is the existing weekday peak level service. The big one is Town Center Boulevard and Latrobe, and that's level E in the evening, D at White Rock and Latrobe, and in the morning that's the bad one. So when they look out, this is the existing Tesla project with current conditions. They did see that it's about the same. There's no significant change. I think the Latrobe Town Center moved to an E, and it's light. That's why I was at 76.8. This is at 6.9. So with the project, it's 1/10 of a trip left. How those numbers work, I couldn't tell you. And it's always interesting to me, how real are these numbers. But as we move through it, this is what cumulative for 2040 is. If you check out that far. For existing level service F at White Rock and Latrobe, and level service E at Fulton Foothill into the business park, and level service E at Town Center Boulevard. If you've driven over there during the morning and the afternoon, you know it's bad. So that's what they project out to 2040. 2040 with the project, they're showing, it'll be F is existing, it's 113 to show one more peak. So that's level service F, so it is a significant impact. Measure E says that, if you hit level service F, that you've got to mitigate, fix it. So the mitigation measures that they've suggested for this project, for this conditional use permit, they want to, prior to the first day of operations, the project applicant shall pay the county's required fees and contribute their fair share of costs to improve the intersection at Latrobe and White Rock, which will be level service F. Following improvements, reconfigure the northbound right turn movement, and then restrict the westbound and left U-turn movements. And they've determined the project's fair share at this intersection is 2%. So, and that's based off the numbers they generate. We should become traffic engineers. It seems lucrative. So the modification is suggesting that level service will go from F back to a level service E, which doesn't sound like a big win to me, but it meets the requirement for not having to mitigate further. So that's basically it. It's a notification that's in the process of going through right now. It's an odd thing that if I guess you want to talk to EID about it, you can submit comments to them, but you're welcome to submit comments to the planning department and email those in. And if you have questions or concerns, we'll look at it a little closer. I'm baffled by the traffic numbers.
So the primary motivation for this is the EID facility off the Bass Lake Road, which the CSD wants to purchase.
Well,
that escrow has been held up because EID wanted to make sure they had a place to relocate that maintenance facility and the personnel. And that's why this conditional use permit is being requested and being processed through. So that will clear up the space, allow them to vacate the Bass Lake area.
That'll become part of the park project.
Exactly, so that's really their motivation in this, it's not something that they really need at capacity, it's a relocation.
Yeah, well, not only that, but then you're moving all the functions to one spot as opposed to spreading it out across all the roads.
Right.
So there is you know, to be less impacted by this lake area. But,
Anything to add to that? Okay. So
But as with any project we've discussed, the county wants to hear your comments and concerns. So if you email them in, mail them in, they'll take them, they'll listen to them, and they'll give you an answer one way or the other. But we want to make sure that a lot of these things, like a conditional use permit, you don't really hear about it, and it might be in the village life, and you might see it and go, oh, and you move on. We don't have a TV station here, we don't have radio stations here. So if you see it, but then you don't watch the process, you don't know what's going on. So we wanted to bring it up tonight. We do have this one. It's just an informational thing. We were talking earlier about the approvals process and how the draft EIR goes through and how the environmental department's review. The county hires the environmental consultant to conduct that, and the applicant pays for it. So on this, the board of supervisors 2 weeks ago, it was before the holiday, right?
Yeah.
So they had an existing contract with Abbott Kinderman Law Firm for legal services for EIR review, CEQA compliance for a bunch of different projects, the general plan, for other things. And it had been amended many times so that it basically became a very big document covering a lot of little parts, a lot of moving pieces. So county staff had suggested that a better tack, instead of adding on another amended function of this contract, was to issue a new contract, get rid of the old, and it's specifically looking at these specific plans, Lime Rock Valley specific plan, Central Eldorado Hill specific plan, and the Village of Marble Valley specific plan. It's a 3-year term for the agreement. It started July 1st, and it ends in 2022, and the total cost is supposed to exceed $150,000, and it's applicant funded, meaning that the developers are paying for it. So there was some discussion about whether or not it kind of got a little sideways at the board, if I remember correctly. There were questions about, are we reviewing the things that we say that need to be done, that the developer tries to do, that we're saying are going to be done? And really that wasn't the conversation for this. They just basically wanted to...
This is establishing a contract for legal services, just like the first statement says.
Yeah.
For EIA purposes, right? EIR evaluation.
Yeah. So, but when we talk about projects, we're talking about, oh, well, there's going to be a draft environmental impact report. There will be other environmental studies. Well, this is part of it. You know, the county needs somebody to backstop them to look at these things. In addition to having the consultant that actually does it. So, these people are hired in the next 3 years. That, to me, means that there'll be some work done on the 3 projects in the next 3 years in terms of review.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about like Lime Rock is about or how many residences, but the Dorado Hill specific plan, you're looking in the range of 800 to 1,000 new homes off El Dorado Hills Boulevard, between El Dorado Hills Boulevard and Silver Valley, what's often called the old golf course development in that area. The Marble Valley, that's further off 50, and that's 30.
So there in the Grass Lake Road, it's like almost 4,000 homes.
Yeah, over 20 years that are proposed to be built.
Lime Rock is, I can't remember the number, but it's a different year. So,
it's 800 properties and right adjacent to Marble Valley.
Yeah, it would be Marble Valley. When you get off the freeway at Grass Lake Road, if you go north, it's Grass Lake Road. If you go south, it's Marble Valley. But
Marble Valley and Lime are kind of like, think what El Dorado Hills was before Serrano got approved and started getting built out. That's pretty much what that is right now. It's pretty much oak trees and hills, and over the next 20 years, you're basically going to get another Serrano built up in that area.
Yeah. And Marble Valley Company is actually part of development, so it's the same thing. But as we discussed earlier, you know, you say companies, you make other companies to run on the project, so that's what that is. So, but as we talked about,
so G3 is Gallo Enterprises.
Gallo from down from your neck of the woods.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Down Modesto. So Gallo's been working with Parker Development Company collectively in the 2 projects, trying to make sure it kind of goes together.
Marble Valley had a specific plan in the 90s.
Yes.
It'd be nice to do it together, like I said.
Right.
Coordinated.
So you look at cumulative impacts, the whole thing. Yeah, right. So.
And the entirety of Lime Rock is Eldorado Hills. It's not Cameron Park, if I'm remembering correctly. Is that accurate? I thought it was. Okay.
Part of it is within Cameron Park, certainly. In fact, I think all of is outside of El Dorado Hills. And with the exception of our fire department, most of it's outside the area. For Marble Valley, it's outside the area you consider to be El Dorado Hills. Although depends where you want to draw the lines. I don't think it's 95762 out there, but I don't really know.
The fire
I'm not looking
department,
at the map.
El Dorado Hills Fire Department basically has covered about 2,500 of those residences.
Right.
The Cal Fire, which operates Cameron Park Fire, they would cover about 1,500.
Right. So we're talking about 2 different stations and all that other stuff out there. But
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was approved before July 1st, so just to let everybody know that was going on. So the planning department contacted us Friday, if I'm remembering, because I'm driving around and check my cell phone calls. It's for a residential setback variance for a proposed home on a property. Variance to allow reduction in the front yard setback from 20 feet to 0. To allow for development of a single-family home with attached garages. 1.46 acres located on the northwest side of Guadalupe Drive, which is 400 feet south of where Francisco Drive basically gets into Guadalupe. Take a look at it real quick here. This is the parcel we're talking about, and you can see how narrow it is right here. And Guadalupe goes, snakes through Lake Hills Estates. And Francisco Day ends up here as a curve. So basically what it comes down to is there's 2 things. Originally they thought they might need to get a variance for the easement as well. There's an easement, I want to say it's for road and for utility right away. But when they looked at how they had drawn this plan, and here's a look at the map, they discovered that they weren't going to infringe on the easement, but they still need the setback because this hillside is too steep, I believe, to construct a home. And then they're looking at things like, well, they'll remove less oak trees if they build it farther down to the end of the property, but they will be right up against the road. So the setback is 20 feet right now is what's required, and they're looking to eliminate that, make it 0 feet. So, and this is a look from the assessor's GIS website. This is the lot right here on this side, and as you can see, it gets very narrow down here. On the back side of it, it's federal property, it's Folsom Lake. So, and these are some of the designs they submitted. Let's take a little closer look at this. As you can see right here, it is right up against the road. Driveways right here, and they're right on in the setback. So, I'll show you a few more things and we'll talk about a little bit. And this is another look at the design. The roadway's right here, and this is the setback right here. So you can see the house is actually infringing on the setback. This is, I believe, the utility easement, so they're not going to mention that won't get there. And typically, we weren't, it was last year it was submitted, I believe, and we weren't notified on the agency on the initial email. So I don't think we've looked at a residential setback question. I don't know. I'll look at John how far.
Well, a lot of the Serrano projects have a
Built
standard
in.
waiver.
Yeah, they have a standard waiver, but I don't think we've looked at one. I know I haven't, but the county did ask if we present these tonight and see if there's any input that we want to provide as APAC, or if there's any community impact input to this process of, oops, I went too far. And it's just another look at it. And to me, when I looked at it, I tried to drive by. My only question was the sight lines for the garage being that close to the roadway in terms of, getting in and out of the garage. Setbacks are there for a reason, but they're nearest neighbors across another big sort of.
Do you remember the size of the lot? Is this one of those?
1.46 acres.
Okay. All right.
So, but this is, I believe, the grade is too steep. Is the reason they put the house beyond. So they can't build. So if there's anything I'm missing, Mel, if you want to throw it in.
We're looking at moving this forward to a public hearing, I think in August or September. So we'll have a staff report analyzing the constraints on that. So definitely, if anybody has an interest in reviewing our staff's analysis, its findings for variance are pretty challenging to make because of constraints and whatnot. But this one does lay out certain constraints that could qualify for the findings to be made for allowing the variance. So oak trees being preserved, working within the topography where there's ability to develop, and avoiding the trying to conform, especially at the setbacks and whatnot. But in this case, there are a request to vary from those setbacks. able to build the site, right? And build their homes. And
They've been looking at this for over a year. I know that.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's heavily constrained, so I think the variance would be something that they move forward with, so they can build their home on it.
What's the size of the home they're proposing? What's the footprint?
I think 8,000 square feet.
Yeah, it was
Okay, so it's a modest
26 or
home, it's
3
not
years.
8,000 that you're trying
It's
to.
similar to what's in the area.
Yeah.
So we did that analysis there.
And when I was looking at this, I was looking, so, the setbacks here, the closest home is over here and over here. So, to me, the setback is really the distance from the road, Are they someday going to get a car coming into their garage inadvertently or, things like that?
And it is a private road, so
It
it's
is,
not,
yeah.
it's not like a...
So that was my other question, in terms of, is the setback is 20 feet standard in Lake Hills?
It's not, I don't, well, this is a zoning standard, right?
Okay.
But the easement, then you have more constraints.
Yeah. So, but they're outside the easement, so they're okay there. But so that was my only. When I looked at it, was the sight lines, because it does swerve a little bit here, and you're right really on the road to driveway to building. That would be my input or my feedback.
I appreciate that, Mel wanted to get into the
Yeah.
attention, but typically an individual request of this site is not something that's really on our agenda. We typically try to look at the more development projects that are going to have homes or commercial businesses to see how they will affect the community as a whole. This to me is an individual doing what they are allowed to do, which is apply from a variance from county setbacks. They're going through the standard planning process to do it. I'm really assuming there's not a homeowners association that gets involved, or if there is, let the homeowners association get involved and make
There's architectural control.
Okay. Fine, let them go through that process. I really don't see, other than for notice purposes, that we should be spending any time of our limited time on this project, to be honest with you.
Amen.
Yeah. But that was I know that Tom, was it Tom? What's his name? I don't remember who's the first one.
Yeah.
So, but he was looking for that, and then we missed each other a couple times on Friday. So I was driving around. But that was in terms of looking for feedback from APAC.
We have no opinion.
Yeah, we don't get the application that often, but there are instances, like in this area, it's heavily constrained, given the road situation. Older subdivision has constraints imposed on it, plus you added roads, you added the speed reserve. This is the only way they can do it, to be able to try and get their...
Again, I appreciate the going through the process. I don't, again, think it's something that should be brought, you brought it to our attention, great, but we've heard it and we have no opinion on it.
There's a subdivision of those kinds of projects that might be a
That's different.
consideration. This is a one-off, single event,
Yeah.
single resident situation, and should be dealt with at that level.
So I'll throw in a comment later when it's appropriate that my only question of the sidelines and the proximity to the street. It's a private road. So as Tim said, I don't know if we want to spend a lot of time on it, but we were asked, and so there we are. Now you're all involved. But we appreciate the county reaching out to talk to us about it and engaging us. That's dialogue is important. So Sienna Ridge, the commercial center, the state is Safeway anchored. So they announced last month some of the initial tenants they had signed, and I know a couple of the project engineers from AT&T and PG&E working on this, so I kind of knew this before, but nothing's official until they announce it. So Strong Associates Park Development sold the property. It's at corner of Bass Lake Road and Sienna Ridge and Serrano Parkway in that corner. They sold it to Donahue Scribner. They're developing it. It's a 100,000 square foot retail center. The Safeway market there is going to be 50,000 square feet. A fuel station, a 3,000 square foot convenience market. So like a convenience store. There'll be a Chase Bank. The initial drawings show a drive-through. Whether they do it or not, I'm not real sure. Pacific Dental Services, Fresh Cleaners, a dry cleaner, nail retreat, and nail salon. Park Avenue. This will be their second El Dorado Hills location. There's one in the Rayleigh Shopping Center. This will be their second in El Dorado Hills. Great Clips, also their second location in El Dorado Hills. Mexico Lindo, it's a restaurant that they have a location in San Jose right now that I guess is pretty popular, very successful, it's been there for a while. Sourdough Company, this will be their third Dorado Hills location. They have one down by Target, they have one Cisco, right across from Safeway, in Safeway, guys. And then this will be the third location. And then John and Bob's Yogurt Shop, which is, well, you know, there will be something inside Safeway for sure, but John and Bob's Yogurt Shop will be the other one they announced, and that's, I guess they've been very successful in Chico. They have a location in Chico, so they're moving down here for that. And I talked to somebody who actually works in Chico, they go there all the time. So this is the marketing materials. We talked about what's available to when they're doing the commercial marketing. So this is what they've distributed. Now, not all these Dallas locations are on this map. Should have taken a picture as I drove past it. I drive past it every day. So on the corner of New Mexico and Lindo, at the stop at the Serrano Parkway right here, Sienna Ridge right here, and Bass Lake comes around and the lake going to turn this side. It's a big structure. It's the grade of this is significantly above Bass Lake Road, and then there's a building with a facade on top of it, a lot of architectural elements. So they started building. It's like, I don't know what they're building, but it's big like this. So in height. The Chase Bank is here, and they do have a drive-through provision on this drawing, whether or not they actually, that's how they.
Well, if it does become a Chase Bank, it becomes a Chick-fil-A.
You're just hearing friends, aren't you?
You hear drive-through and everything.
Well, yeah, I live right on this side of the lake, so I'll drive over all the time. The Safeway fueling station will be out here with the convenience store right here at the end at this southern entrance. The cleaner, the dry cleaners here, the nail salon, and Park Avenue will be here on the corner outside the Safeway. And the dental office right now is here. They didn't identify a few of the stores, but if you want an open one, there's a plenty available. So we had talked to, and the Bass Lake Action Committee, we had talked to Park and Development last fall, I want to say in September or October, and they indicated that, it's not their project anymore, they don't own this. It's developed by Dr. Scribner. But when it was communicated to them, that would functionally be very similar in the tenant mix to what's in the existing Safeway on Francisco and Green Valley. So to date, this is pretty similar. I would imagine it'll probably be a pizza place.
John?
Yeah.
They have contact information from Donnie Schreiber, so you need information on the.
Well, I've asked them from APAC, I've asked them for the Bass Lake Action Committee, and they're not responsive. But now they're marketing it, so we'd ask them to come meet with us. So we'll see. But it's being built. So right now, we just thought we'd let everybody know since it was announced. It was in the Business Journal, and so they're anticipating we'll move through the timelines. When we talked to Parker last year, they had been told that Donnie Scribner had envisioned opening in time for the holidays, meaning Thanksgiving of this year. But we had a lot of rain. I don't know if anyone noticed that. And a lot of that water ended up in Bass Lake, and all that runoff. And there's a soggy mess there. So it's been pushed back. They're anticipating opening in Safeway in 2019 to the end of the year, maybe early 2020. So I guess no Thanksgiving turkey. But the other businesses are projected to start opening in the second quarter of 2020. So within a year, we'll see stores open and start shopping locally for the people over that end at the top of Serrano and in the Bass Lake area. And then, were there any questions about that one? Sorry, I just blew right through it. It's just, it's an approved project, and these are the announced tenants. It's exciting to see that there's movement, that eventually something's going to be done, and we'll have some more services in the area. Do some minor status updates on some projects that are approved during the process. So, Saratoga Retail Phase 2. There's a planning department notice of decision of it. I think we got the letter on Friday afternoon, and we'd already revised our agenda once. And so this isn't an agenda item. This is just something we're adding for information for the community, because we did talk about this quite a bit over the last few years. So, Saratoga Retail, where the Walmart is right now, across from Rayleigh's, the freeway on right here. In 2018, this was approved by the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission. This was projected to be a Chick-fil-A with a dual drive-through. This had been revised from being a drive-through to a drive-through habit burger. And then the community was a little upset about multiple drive-throughs, so So it got converted to a standalone building over here. The Chick-fil-A was still the kind of the contentious part of this. There was some discussion about whether it's tourist serving, whether the driveways were pointed in a residentially zoned area, which we thought they were. But this was an approved project. Residents in the community had talked about a lawsuit, and they ended up talking with the developer to make this a better project. Park Village, in the original village, Dorado Hills, is right adjacent to this. And so there's a lot of concern about traffic on Dorado Hills Boulevard. When the intersection, or the interchange is redesigned, they eliminated this connectivity to Saratoga from Park. So now, anybody who wants to shop over here, they have to drive around and come against this residential area to get in here. So the community was a little upset in that area. And, you know, to my eye, rightfully so. This is what's changed in discussion with the developer and the community to avoid a lawsuit and to satisfy everybody's needs and their concerns. This will no longer be a Chick-fil-A. Instead of it being one unit rent out to lease, it will be 3 individual units. This will still have a drive-through, but it will be a single lane. This building remains the same. Some of the interior parking lot items have changed. There's no, I believe the RV parking is eliminated with this. But this was a decision of the planning department, the planning director, because it was a minor modification of an approved plan. It was within the scope of what was, it conformed substantially with what had approved last year. So we'll look a little closer at the buildings.
I think it was the original approval it conformed to.
Was it original, or was it, I thought it conformed to the DR18?
The DR18.
Last year's.
Okay.
So the decision was, because it conformed to what was approved last year, it's less impactful, but it complies essentially with what was approved last year. So, 3 tenants in this space. These are pretty small, 1,200 square feet, 1,600 square feet. The original, I go back and I look at this. The original marketing material for this, before they had signed Chick-fil-A and before they had signed Habit Burger, showed a Starbucks in the marketing materials. So there's a lot of discussion among area residents that this will probably be a Starbucks.
Well, said it'd be a coffee shop. There is more coffee shops available than just Starbucks, but they're the most popular, right?
Yes.
Local pizza.
But that was a concern. This is again just a look at some of the internal circulation, walking paths. There was some concern. So this was a notice decision. In the decision, it said a design review application modifying the approved site plan and the exhibits with the original approval in 2018 by the Board of Supervisors. The design review seeks the approval of the planning director for proposing minor changes and making a determination of substantial conformance with the approved project from DR 18-0001 and the established conditions of approval. So the this new application was processed according with the general review procedures. It's a staff level review, which was sort of a discussion we had initially when they wanted to do the design review in 2018. But it did have public notice. The decision to approve the project can be appealed to the Planning Commission by filing an appeal along with payment of applicable, I think it's $200 to file an appeal, if I remember. So that started, the appeal period started Monday, July 8th, and it ends on Friday, July 19th. So if anybody wants to appeal it. So the applicant in their submittal packet had said that planning department staff had the concerns were raised regarding the possible traffic implications of the requested change in the site plan, specifically that a coffee business, we're not naming, the coffee business could result in more AM traffic trips, affecting the conclusions of the original traffic reports prepared for the project. So they went ahead and they did another traffic impact report, looking specifically at the difference between the coffee drive-through and the Chick-fil-A. And so their determination was from that consultant that it's really no different from the Chick-fil-A in terms of morning traffic. So we're almost done there.
How about Sunday traffic?
Well, there will be Sunday traffic. There will be, here's what, and I know the residents worked hard on this to get a better project for the neighborhood. I think they're happy with what they got versus what was approved. If anyone wants to chime in about it. My concern with this is that there's a Starbucks, and I have to drive past it as I take kids to Montrose High School, on Green Valley Road in Cambridge. In that parking lot, the line is probably another 40 cars snaking through the entire parking lot around both sides of the building and then out back to Green Valley Road further to the east. So there will be impacts in the morning. And those people, hopefully it won't be people getting off the freeway to go to Starbucks. It'll be people from the neighborhood going there, or residents. So
And remember when Saratoga connects,
yeah,
people will be going.
They'll be going
They'll be
west.
going both directions.
Well,
so people may stop and grab their coffee before they don't have to get on the 50.
But the primary focus, I think, for us, we had suggested non-support for the project because we had concerns about the traffic impacts there, and we didn't think the traffic study was. We weren't convinced of the results of it. And we also thought it was a bad fit, being up against the oldest neighborhood, Dorado Hills, and that was they're already impacted by the change in the off ramp and the on ramp, and Saratoga going through. So we had rejected. We had not supported the project, non-support. But I think that the residents went through the process. They had an opportunity to appeal it. They appealed it. They didn't win at the appeal. They had an opportunity, therefore, to file a lawsuit. I mean, we all have that chance. They did it, and the developer wanted to work with them to get something if they wanted to get this project done. So they seem to be happy with the result. Kudos to them for following through and realizing something for their immediate community, and hopefully it's a benefit for the overall community. So, but we did want to update everybody on that because it did come out late on Friday. And I believe it was I think I said it was in the Business Journal today.
It was posted on next door. Someone posted on next door that,
yes,
the result, and Craig Sandberg, who represents the developer, said the neighbors told him this is a win-win. And he and the developer are very happy with the bar.
So this is an example of when the community participates, it got approved even though the immediate community seemed to be opposed to it, but they followed the options that are available to them. And hopefully it's just a better project for the community. So if there's no questions about that, we're going to get out of here. 10 minutes 9, that's pretty good. Our next meeting is August 14th. We'll be back here in this building. We think, right now, there's a lot of projects queued up that aren't ready to go, but that we're aware of. So if there aren't enough projects in August to merit getting everybody out here, we'll probably ask you all to stay home. But there are a bunch of potential things that are coming that JPA wants to talk to us, and they can't do anything else but August. We probably will have it here in August, but if we done everything in August, we'll ask them to hold off until September. But as Tim had said, when these projects come out, it's a quick turnaround, 45 days for a draft environmental impact report, plus maybe an extra 15 if we do an extension. It's 1,300-page documents, 400-page documents. We need a lot of help when we do it. And if you have concerns, or if you just want to see what it's like, we're not experts to walk you through. Here's what we look at. If you're concerned about traffic, why don't you look at the traffic? If you're concerned about noise or the air pollution or anything else, maybe you just focus on that. And every little bit of help will get us closer to getting things turned around and getting an informed response in. And making for better projects, making better results for the community. So if you are interested in participating, our emails are on the agendas. There's an email contact on our website. If you did not sign up for our email list, we send about 1 a month. Well, 2 this month when we amended the agenda. But we typically send out our meeting agenda just to remind people about these things. And then if there's a big project coming up, we'll probably know about that as well. So with that said, thank you everybody for coming out, and we'll see you in August or in September.
Thank you.